Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a pretty dense stack of material.
Oh, very dense.
Right. So we've got a set of highly complex SEC filings, a brand new equity research report, and, some contrasting market analysis on a company that, well, it just completely defies traditional financial logic.
It really does. I mean, usually when you pull up a company's quarterly statement, the narrative is somewhat linear.
Yeah, exactly. They manufacture a product, they sell more of it, their revenue climbs, and hopefully, the stock follows suit.
Right. But today we are unpacking a financial paradox that is so massive in its scale, the numbers almost look like typos.
They really do. When I first reviewed the reporting on this firm, I literally found myself double-checking the columns to make sure I hadn't mixed up millions with billions.
It's an easy mistake to make with this one.
So let's lay out the baseline for you listening. We are looking at a company called Bitmine Immersion Technologies, trading under the ticker BMNR. And the research shows that over a 9-month period, the revenue just exploded. We're talking about a 12.5 times increase.
Which is massive.
Yeah. They went from generating about $4.77 million in the prior year to nearly $60 million.
And that is the kind of top-line growth that usually has Wall Street throwing a parade, right?
Absolutely. Yet in that exact same 9-month window, BMNR posted a net loss of $9.106 billion. With a B.
Yeah, a B.
Oh.
It creates this really fascinating disconnect. You have a business that's supposedly scaling its revenue incredibly fast, but simultaneously reporting one of the most severe wealth destruction events on paper we've seen this quarter.
Right. So our mission today is to figure out what is actually happening inside BMNR. Is their leadership specifically a prominent figure named Tom Lee? Is he executing a visionary masterstroke in the digital asset space? Or are they constructing a highly fragile, multi-billion-dollar house of cards that is structurally doomed? Okay, let's unpack this.
Yet to understand how a company can make $60 million and lose $9 billion at the exact same time, we basically have to throw out the traditional corporate playbook.
Right, because BMNR is not building software.
No, they're not running supply chains either. The research defines them as a crypto treasury company.
Right.
Their entire core strategy is the relentless accumulation of one specific asset, which is Ethereum.
And we are not talking about holding, a little bit of crypto on the balance sheet as an inflation hedge.
Oh, no, not at all.
Their publicly stated goal, which the sources highlight prominently, is to ultimately own 5% of the total global supply of Ethereum.
Which honestly is a level of concentration that borders on market monopolization.
It's wild.
It is. To put the current hoard in perspective, BMNR's total asset base is sitting at $11.63 billion.
Wow.
And within that massive figure, they're holding 5.81 million individual ETH tokens.
But they aren't just locking those tokens in a cold storage wallet and waiting for the price to go up, right?
Exactly. They are actively deploying them to generate that $60 million in revenue we mentioned earlier.
Right, through a process called staking. So out of the 5.81 million ETH they hold, the filings show they've staked 5.07 million of them via their proprietary platform, AVAN.
Yeah, AVAN.
And for you listening, if you know the crypto space, you understand that staking isn't just passive income.
Right, it's very active.
Mechanically, they are locking up their Ethereum to act as collateral, to validate transactions and secure the broader Ethereum blockchain.
Yep.
And in return for providing that security infrastructure, the network programmatically pays them newly minted Ethereum as a reward.
And that's a really crucial distinction to make. It requires significant technical infrastructure to maintain those validator nodes.
Because if they mess up...
Exactly. If those nodes go offline or act maliciously, the network can penalize them by slashing, basically destroying some of their staked Ethereum.
Ouch.
Yeah. But assuming the Mevasam platform runs smoothly, that massive 5 million ETH deployment is operating as a staggering yield machine.
Unbelievable yield.
The research estimates this staking operation is generating roughly $257 million annually.
Wow. But that brings up a glaring issue regarding their valuation. The sources note BMNR currently has a price-to-sales ratio of over 180.
Yeah, 180.
That is astronomical. I mean, a normal tech company might trade at 5 or 10 times its sales because it has a traditional moat, a proprietary algorithm, a sticky customer base, or patent protection.
Right.
BMNR doesn't really have any of that, do they?
No, their moat is effectively non-existent. What's fascinating here is that anyone with sufficient capital could replicate this exact business model.
Literally anyone.
Exactly. BMNR's valuation is entirely tethered to two external forces they have absolutely zero control over.
Okay.
First, the daily spot price of Ethereum, and second, the variable yield rate paid out by the Ethereum network.
So they're just at the mercy of the market.
Completely. The market is pricing them based on the sheer gravity of their digital asset vault,
Mhm.
not on any operational genius or proprietary technology.
I mean, they're like a dragon hoarding digital gold. They don't actually make anything new. They just sit on a massive pile of wealth and earn interest on it.
That's a great way to put it.
But let me stop you right there, because we have a company sitting on over $11 billion in assets, and they're generating an estimated $257 million a year in yield from their staking platform.
Yep.
That is $250 million in incoming cash flow. So how do we arrive at a $9.106 billion net loss? The math just feels fundamentally broken.
It does feel broken.
Huh.
It basically comes down to the brutal intersection of extreme operating costs and the punishing reality of corporate accounting rules for digital assets.
Okay, let's look at the accounting side first.
So the research points out that BMNR has a net margin of negative 14,306.58%.
I mean, a negative 14,000% margin, that number almost loses its meaning.
It really does. But the vast majority of that $9 billion net loss is driven by mark-to-market accounting. Basically, impairment volatility on their crypto holdings. Under standard accounting rules, if BMNR buys Ethereum at $3,000 and the price drops to $2,000 by the end of the quarter, they must report that drop in value as a massive loss on their income statement.
Even if they haven't sold a single token.
Correct. Even if they're just holding it. And
Yeah.
because they hold billions of dollars of an incredibly volatile asset, a standard 15 or 20% market correction in the crypto space translates to billions of dollars in paper losses instantly.
Which just devastates their net income on the quarterly reports.
Exactly.
Okay, so you might be listening to this and thinking, well, if it's just a paper loss dictated by accounting rules, who cares? They still hold all that Ethereum. The vault is still full.
Right. That's the logical assumption.
And I thought the exact same thing when I first read the summary. But digging into the SEC filings, that defense falls apart completely. They aren't just suffering on paper. They are hemorrhaging actual physical cash.
And this is the crux of the entire research report. If we connect this to the bigger picture and tie this paper loss to the physical reality of their balance sheet, we see a company that is fundamentally running out of liquid runway.
Right. Let's trace their cash reserves.
So in February of 2026, the filings show BMNR had $879.5 million in cash and cash equivalents.
Which, gives them plenty of breathing room to operate their staking nodes, pay their staff, and weather a crypto winter.
You would think so. But just 3 months later, by May 31st, 2026, that cash pile had plummeted to $340.2 million.
They burned through over $500 million in 90 days.
Yes.
I mean, how is that mechanically possible for a company that effectively just manages a digital gulp?
Well, the operating cash flow for the 9-month period was a negative $287.5 million.
Wow.
Now, a traditional free cash flow calculation is a bit messy for a crypto treasury because they're utilizing cash to aggressively buy more digital assets rather than building factories. But the sheer velocity of that cash drain is terrifying.
Terrifying is the right word.
Maintaining a proprietary platform like Mavan isn't cheap. Corporate overhead for a multi-billion-dollar holding company is massive, and they're relentlessly deploying cash to acquire more ETH to hit that 5% global supply goal.
And the sources highlight a huge blind spot here. The SEC filings lack any detailed breakdown of their debt and borrowings.
Yeah, that's a massive red flag.
We're looking at a company burning $500 million in liquidity in 3 months, and we don't actually know what their leverage situation looks like.
Which means Wall Street analysts are basically flying blind regarding BMNR's debt obligations and interest payments.
Right.
We don't know what kind of loans Tom Lee took out to finance this massive accumulation strategy, or what the covenants on those loans might be if the price of Ethereum drops below a certain threshold.
Let's play out that scenario because it feels like a structural trap. BMNR's primary asset, Ethereum, can swing wildly in value by the hour.
Oh, totally.
Meanwhile, their operational costs are fixed and massive, burning hundreds of millions in cold, hard cash. If we hit a severe crypto bear market, their paper value vanishes. Their cash reserves are already depleting rapidly. Aren't they fundamentally illiquid?
They are facing a severe illiquidity horizon. Despite having $11.6 billion in total assets, those assets are largely locked up in staking contracts or highly subject to price impact if sold in bulk.
Meaning they can't just sell it all at once without crashing the market.
Exactly. If they run out of actual cash to cover their operating expenses or service potential hidden debt, they would be forced to liquidate their Ethereum.
And selling millions of Ethereum into a down market to keep the lights on would just crash the price further, triggering a death spiral.
A total death spiral. And the market is clearly pricing in that exact scenario. Let's look at the sentiment metrics in the research. As of mid-August 2026, BMNR is trading at $18.08 a share.
Oof.
That is a 72.4% collapse from its 52-week high.
Yeah, it's trading significantly below its 200-day moving average, which technical analysts view as a confirmation of a long-term entrenched downtrend.
Right.
But the metric that really stands out in the equity research is the price-to-book ratio, which is currently sitting at 0.95.
And that is an incredibly telling metric for a crypto treasury. In traditional finance, if a manufacturing company has a price-to-book ratio under 1, it means the market thinks the company's stock is worth less than if you just sold off all its real estate and machinery.
But real estate and specialized machinery are illiquid. Ethereum is highly liquid.
Exactly. So the market is looking at $11.6 billion of highly liquid digital assets sitting in BMNR's vault and pricing the company at a discount to the actual value of those tokens.
So why would they do that? Why discount liquid assets?
Because the market does not trust management's ability to preserve that value. A PB of 0.95 means investors are looking at that massive operational cash burn and concluding that BMNR will destroy shareholder value before investors ever see a return. They are discounting the assets because they anticipate the cash bleed will force unfavorable liquidations.
It's a profound vote of no confidence. And you can see that uncertainty fracturing the broader market. The sources detail a major ideological split happening right now among corporate crypto whales.
Oh, this is fascinating.
On one hand, you have Michael Saylor, who famously transformed his software business into a massive Bitcoin treasury. The research notes he is currently selling digital assets.
Right.
But on the other side, you have Tom Lee at BMNR aggressively doubling down. The filings show BMNR bought another 7,391 Ethereum for $14.3 million just this past August.
It creates this massive schism in market strategy, when the most prominent players in the digital asset treasury space are executing polar opposite maneuvers, one taking liquidity out of the market, the other draining their own corporate cash to buy more retail and institutional investors are left entirely in the dark about which model is actually sustainable.
And here's where it gets really interesting. To maintain their capital structure, BMNR just declared 17 cash dividends on their 9.50% Series A perpetual preferred stock.
Yeah.
And they committed to the schedule all the way through December 2026.
We have to unpack what that actually means for their balance sheet.
Let's think about it like taking out a high-interest mortgage on a massive stack of casino chips.
Well, wow.
By issuing Series A perpetual preferred stock, BMNR has locked themselves into strict mandatory cash obligations. They've promised to pay a 9.50% premium yield to these preferred shareholders.
Right.
But the underlying collateral generating the revenue to pay that yield is Ethereum, an asset that can drop 30% over a single weekend.
The structural risk there is massive.
Yeah.
Because where do those dividend payments come from?
Exactly.
They don't materialize out of thin air. They have to be paid in cash. And as we just established, their physical cash pile dropped by over $500 million in 90 days.
It's terrifying.
They are draining their rapidly depleting liquid reserves to pay a premium yield to preferred shareholders, while the core corporate entity is operating at a $250 million negative cash flow.
It's the literal definition of a dividend trap. You are luring in preferred investors with a 9.50% yield, but you're funding that yield by draining the very lifeblood of the company.
Exactly.
It makes total sense why the research report defines the overall market sentiment as neutral with a bearish tilt.
The pressure on the balance sheet is immense. Which brings us to the immediate horizon. If the current trajectory is unsustainable, what breaks first?
Right.
The sources outline a few critical catalysts coming up in the next 3 to 6 months that will basically force a resolution.
And the most immediate catalyst is their upcoming fiscal Q3 10Q filing. The research estimates this will drop in October 2026.
Yes.
That document is going to be the absolute moment of truth for Tom Lee and BMNR.
Oh, without a doubt. When that 10Q drops, no one is going to care about their top-line revenue or their paper losses. Every analyst on Wall Street will immediately jump to the cash flow statement.
To see if the bleeding stopped.
Exactly. Did management manage to stabilize that $340 million cash pile? Or did the burn continue? If that cash reserve has dropped to $150 million or worse, the market will realize the countdown clock to illiquidity is nearly at zero.
Because once the cash is gone, you can't pay your operating expenses, you can't service whatever hidden debt you have, and you certainly can't pay those 17 preferred stock dividends you just promised.
And at that point, the forced liquidation of their Ethereum hoard begins, validating the market's discounted price-to-book ratio.
But the internal cash burn isn't the only threat, is it? The sources explicitly flag a massive external shadow looming over their entire operation.
Yeah, this is huge.
It's categorized as regulatory risk, specifically tied to something called the SEC's Project Crypto.
This is the ultimate existential variable for them. The SEC has been heavily scrutinizing staking operations. The core legal debate is whether staking programs like BMNR's proprietary Maven platform constitute unregistered securities offerings.
How does that mechanically threaten BMNR, though?
Well, if the SEC concludes that Maven is offering an unregistered security, they could force BMNR to halt operations entirely.
Just shut it down.
Yeah. If the SEC drops the hammer and says, you must unstake those 5 million tokens immediately, BMNR's entire yield engine shuts down overnight. That estimated $257 million in annual revenue instantly drops to zero.
And without that yield coming in, there is nothing to offset the massive corporate overhead and dividend obligations. The cash burn doesn't just continue, it becomes terminal.
This raises an important question that the equity research wrestles with. Is a pure-play, publicly traded crypto treasury company actually a viable long-term business model?
Right.
Or is it simply a highly convoluted, heavily leveraged ETF masquerading as an operating corporation?
That is the perfect way to frame it. Because if you, as an investor, want exposure to the price of Ethereum, you can just buy an Ethereum ETF.
Exactly.
The ETF has minimal management fees and zero operational bloat. Why would you buy BMNR, where you have to take on the extreme concentration risk of a single volatile asset class, while also absorbing the cost of Tom Lee's corporate overhead, the aggressive cash burn, and the regulatory risk of their staking platform?
You wouldn't. You are taking on layers of structural and operational risk that completely negate the benefit of holding the underlying asset. The research ultimately gives BMNR a rating of 4, which places it at the lower end of the neutral spectrum. They view this as a purely binary play.
So what does this all mean? Let's map out both sides of that binary play for the listener. What does the bull case look like from here?
The bull case requires perfect execution and, honestly, external cooperation. If Ethereum goes on a massive, sustained bull run and network staking yields remain high, BMNR's net asset value will skyrocket.
So they just out-earn their mistakes.
Pretty much. The sheer volume of incoming yield could outpace their operating cash burn, stabilizing the balance sheet. If they successfully navigate the SEC scrutiny, the market will realize the vault is secure, the PB discount will vanish, and the stock will re-rate significantly higher.
But the bear case seems much more structurally sound based on the data.
Yeah, the bear case is simply a continuation of the current math. If the cash continues to burn at $500 million a quarter, or if Ethereum's price stagnates, they run out of liquidity.
Right.
If the SEC classifies Maven as an unregistered security, the yield stops. In any of those scenarios, the floor falls out completely, and BMNR becomes a forced seller of their own assets just to survive.
It is a breathtaking financial tightrope. Just to pull back for a second and look at the sheer scale of the mechanics we've explored today, it is staggering.
It's really staggering.
We are analyzing a company that managed to increase its revenue by 12.5 times, yet triggered a $9.1 billion accounting loss. They're generating $250 million in yield, but somehow physically burned through $500 million in liquid cash in just 90 days.
Yeah.
And they're doing all of this while aggressively trying to hoard 5% of the entire global supply of Ethereum.
It's an unprecedented experiment in modern corporate finance and asset concentration.
Which leaves me with one final thought, something that builds on this entire strategy, but that we haven't explicitly addressed yet.
Okay.
Let's say Tom Lee actually pulls this off. Let's say the cash burn stabilizes, the SEC backs off, and BMNR succeeds in locking up 5% of the total global Ethereum supply inside their corporate vault.
Right, the ultimate bull case.
Exactly. At what point does a single corporate entity holding that much of a blockchain's consensus power break the fundamental premise of the technology?
Oh, wow.
If BMNR owns 5% of the network, do they suddenly become the ultimate proxy ETF, too big to fail in the crypto world? Or in an ecosystem that was fundamentally designed from the ground up to resist centralized power, do they just become a massive centralized target?
That is a fascinating way to look at it.
It is definitely something to keep in mind as we watch the countdown clock to that October SEC filing. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.